half in the back.
You know, I don't think this has ever been plugged in.
Don't worry about that. I've got 180 bidders on my NFT. It's an ape wearing a top hat. I drew it in MS Paint. Oh! I sold my NFT of a monkey wearing a top hat for 185,000 Dogecoins. Oh! Dogecoins just tanked in the stock market. Now it's worth nothing. Oh, wait! Now it's worth 140 million crypto coins. Wait a minute. Oh no! Now it's worth nothing. Maybe I should just invest in the ruble. Anyway, what's going on in your life today, Jay?
Oh, I thought we could talk about the new Roland Emmerich movie. And you know, it's perfect timing because Will Smith just came out with that Independence Day remake.
Welcome to Earth.
Oh, wow!
I've made a shocking discovery. I need you to get me in touch with NASA immediately.
Roland Emmerich's Moonfall is a movie no one noticed. But Moonfall will become an important footnote in movie history as the nail in the coffin of an entire genre of film. The silent ending of a very loud and noisy era. I'm speaking of a time when your family and friends dragged you to the movie theater on opening weekend of a new big-budget sci-fi disaster movie. The theater was crowded. The sounds of crunching and talking were heard until the film started. Then the noise of the new, dumb, loud Roland Emmerich film drowned it all out. For 2 hours plus, you watched divorced dads and shoehorned-in dim-witted side characters stumble through a poorly written film about one epic disaster or another. After a few trips to the bathroom, the movie was over. Everyone filed out of the theater having a shared experience of a loud, mind-numbing film. After dismal box office returns and an actual worldwide disaster, the COVID pandemic, only a smattering of people are returning to the movie theaters. It's now mostly a place for parents to have their kids babysat for a few hours by Spider-Man, Free Guy, or a new Disney product. Grown-ass adults watch movies at home, and young adults and teens watch 5-second TikTok videos on their phones. The 90s are long over. Ironically, one of the first films Roland Emmerich directed was a movie called Ghost Chase. Now he's the one chasing ghosts. So Jay, you wanted to talk about Moonfall? I hate you. I think this is like weird revenge.
Well, now we got Rich making you watch Picard. I'm making you watch Roland Emmerich movies.
Yeah, something's going on.
The tides are changing.
Tides are rising.
The tides. Look out! It's gravity.
It's the moon.
Well, this was fascinating to me. I literally did not know this movie existed until yesterday. It's a movie, $140 million Roland Emmerich disaster porn film, big budget movie. And I had no idea it came into theaters. I never saw a trailer. I never heard a single person talk about it. I did a little research yesterday, and obviously some people reviewed it when it came out, but it was like, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around, does it make a sound? I had no idea this movie existed.
It's the world we live in now. And also probably the studio saw a turd, smelled the turd a mile away, and didn't want to pump in $100 million into marketing.
Yeah, I don't know what they spent on marketing, but one interesting thing I found out is that this was an independently financed movie. This wasn't just one of the big studios throwing money at Roland Emmerich. I think those days are long gone. He did Independence Day 2, big flop.
Why did I buy this book?
I guess he did a couple non-disaster porn movies. He did that Stonewall movie.
Yeah, there's a couple of different weird movies.
He did the Anonymous, the movie about the guy that Ghost wrote for Shakespeare, whatever the fuck that was. I thought he did. Do you remember that John Cusack movie where he plays Edgar Allan Poe? And it's like an action thriller.
I saw that.
I assumed that was him because it was so stupid, but I don't think he had anything to do with that movie. But yeah, so he made a couple changes in his usual formula. No luck. Came back to Independence Day. flopped. Now he's got this thing, which was independently financed. It's like one of the highest budgeted independent movies ever made. And also one of the biggest flops of all time. $140 million budget. I think it made globally like $40 million.
He owes the mob a lot of money.
Apparently the final bit of investment to get the movie made came from China. It was Chinese money.
No kidding.
So there's that.
It's a big part of this because I'm sure you noticed the very standout actress. I looked her up. Her name's Wen Yu.
I'm assuming she's famous in China?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was born in China in the early 2000s and moved to Canada. So she's Chinese-Canadian. She's like a pop star. And her IMDb has her being on what looks like a Chinese soap opera.
Okay.
So clearly a famous Chinese face. And so whenever I see that, because they've done that, they've recut like Marvel movies and they've added in
they do all sorts of shit for China.
Yeah.
That's why Disney can get away with saying our first gay character in a Disney movie like 17 times now.
Right.
They just cut it out of China and then everybody forgets because it's someone in the background.
But I was like, okay, she's running around with Patrick Wilson's son. I'm like, oh, they're going to get a couple action scenes so they could edit her into the trailer a ton. Edit out all the black people, but when I looked at Box Office Mojo and I looked at the worldwide box office, China wasn't listed at all. And then in the movie, they wove it into the plot. They're referencing like how the Chinese space agency is helping. Our Chinese friends are loaning us, and I'm like, if there was some kind of disaster, China wouldn't help at all. They would keep to themselves and figure out a way to make the situation work for them. I'm like, that's bullshit.
Interesting.
So there's several lines about how the Chinese are assisting. First, they go up the first attempt to go to the moon is with the European Space Agency. Then that fails, and then China helps with a couple of things here and there. Our friends in China are helping. So very clearly pandering to the Chinese market. So that makes sense about I didn't even know about the investment. But I wanted to bring that up.
That's interesting.
Along with Kaspersky virus protection software.
What are you talking about?
Jay, Eagle Eye Jay.
Yes.
I'm now going to call you Blind as a Bat Jay.
Okay.
I'm Eagle Eye Mike. They're driving through the streets. Or they're going to a building and the water's coming in and there's
I did see this. I didn't think anything of it.
That's a how do you say it? Kaspersky?
I have no idea, but
it's a antiviral protection, internet protection software company like a McAfee or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a billboard prominently advertising it. And then when the not Simon Pegg character, the science nerd guy.
He's apparently on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he's logging into the computer to like do some kind of calculation or something, and it says "System protected by Kaspersky virus protection" on the screen.
Well, that's where some of that budget came from, China and antiviral software.
Well, you get the money where you can.
Movies are so magical.
Well, these kind of movies.
Well, this is like,
They said nail in the coffin.
That was the weird thing watching it, is that it just felt so dated. Like, how has Roland Emmerich made the exact same movie for 2 decades now? All those shots you see, they have the text at the bottom of the screen saying where they're at. We go from one location to another. We got the father and his estranged son, which that was fucking weird. He doesn't have a single conversation with his son until over an hour into the movie.
We got 2 divorced dads.
Yeah, I really miss you.
I missed you too, my little man.
We never made it to Dad. That's okay.
We got 2 divorced dads. We got 2 different children getting separated from their parents.
2 different estranged sons from different age groups.
That son, by the way, that whole subplot, because he's in the subplot with the Chinese actress. They go off and they have their own little side plot. And he was so bad.
Just so I'm clear, you're gonna take a bomb into space. And why are you even here? You hate NASA.
I had to look him up. I was like, is this some sort of like musician? Is this like stunt casting?
He was in the Clovage Killer.
Well, that's what I looked him up. I was like, oh, this is the main kid from the Clovage Killer. I remember him being good in that. I don't know what happened. He was younger then.
I'm sorry it didn't work out.
Story of my life.
Thanks for getting me out of jail.
He was checked out for being a young actor, like up and coming young actor. I think that young man is wise beyond his years. because he's probably like, I want to be the next Timothy Chalamet, you know. I wanted, and then they're like, all we can get you is this Roland Emmerich movie, and he's like, fine, I'll do it. Then he's like, yeah, we got to get the car.
Thank you for getting me out. I know it wasn't always easy.
Mike, the character's supposed to be angry. He's angry at his dad. He's a troubled teen. He steals a car at one point.
I have nothing but respect for him. the old pros,
for throwing his performance.
The old pros, Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, both established actors. They've made their money. This is a paycheck performance.
Sure.
With probably producer credits, back end, a good, you know.
That didn't work out too well for them.
It didn't work out well for them, but they're there, and Halle Berry's emotion, like this is acting at its finest. When you see a script that's just so awful, and these scenarios that are just so mind-numbingly dumb and unrealistic, and you see Halle Berry like crying and giving, you know, she's a pro.
Oh, sure.
Patrick Wilson, pro. They're sitting in their little spaceship flying around and they're delivering their lines like they should. But that kid,
he knew.
He knew what he was in. He knew that it wasn't really going to advance his career. He wants to do better, smarter things, better movies, and this is all his agent could get him. They said, it's a great deal. You're just gonna have to run around in front of a green screen for a little bit, sit in a car for a couple of scenes.
Just say, look out, gravity.
Look out.
You can handle it.
Yeah, you can handle it. And so he's just like, no.
Through gritted teeth.
I'll do it. But then everyone else is trying, and you know, that's their job.
Well, the other son in the movie, I don't want to harp on him too hard because he's just a little kid, but let's just show a clip and we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, we're all gonna be safe with Dad in Colorado.
Are you sending more rockets to the moon? I don't want you to go.
I love you more than all the stars in the sky.
Even more than the whole Milky Way?
Way more.
I don't want you to go.
Talk about this film, right? That's what we're here to do.
That's what we're here to do.
I mean, this is a where do you start situation, so I'm not even gonna, in terms of like complaining about how dumb the dialogue is and the logic of it, the reality.
Well, it's all the usual Roland Emmerich stuff. The interesting thing is that he usually has his one premise, and that's the movie. 2012, Day After Tomorrow, Earth is freezing in that one. Look out, we gotta run from cold.
Close the door!
In this one, it's look out, we gotta run from the gravitational pull of the moon. But then, he slaps on 3 or 4 other bad movie ideas onto it. Like the last act of this movie is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like just the moon coming towards Earth and it's fucking up our gravitational pull, it's causing floods. Like that's your idea, that's your movie. But then you throw on like AI nanobots that are trying to destroy the universe.
This is just your standard Roland Emmerich movie. But like you said, a couple of layers extra. And the premise is Patrick Wilson, Halle Berry are space astronauts, and they're talking about the lyrics to Toto's Africa.
What does it even mean to miss the rains down in Africa?
The lyrics are, I bless the rains down in Africa.
No, they're not.
We all wondered what the lyrics were. It's I bless the rains down in Africa.
I didn't know that was so, I didn't know this was like a Mandela effect thing. I thought everyone knew that's what the lyrics were.
Yeah.
Is this movie gaslighting us?
But it's actually not rains like it's raining. It's R-E-I-G-N-S, rains like horse rains.
I miss the rain down in Africa.
Although I don't think astronauts, when they're on EVA walks, like doing repair work, I don't think they chit-chat.
You gotta humanize his character.
You gotta humanize the character.
It's the opening of the movie.
I'm not gonna complain about that because there's so much more to complain about in terms of reality, but the premise is a thing from the end of the Matrix films, right? Thousands of nanobots as a sentient AI life form.
We don't know that's what it is at this point.
We don't until the exposition dump at the end. But we'll get to that. Robot.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
In 2011, the robot finally makes its way to Earth, flies past Patrick Wilson's space shuttle, and then bores a hole way down into the center of the moon. 11 years later, it takes 11 years for it to bore down to the center, 10 years, whatever. And then it knocks the moon up, gravitational, and then they have a scene in NASA where the head of NASA comes in, the director, and there's a screen that shows the Earth and the moon and the normal moon's rotation. And then there's a big red line that shows that it's degrading. And then the head of NASA says, "What am I looking at here?"
Can someone tell me what the hell I'm looking at?
I don't know, ask your 5-year-old son. It's very clear on the screen. And I laughed. And so the moon's orbit is deteriorating, which has an escalating effect of disastrous results. Of course, the tides are brought about by the gravity of the moon, so the tides get worse. Flood scenes. Then the moon gets closer, and then pieces of it, I think because of the gravitation of the Earth, start pulling chunks of the moon away.
Yeah.
And then there's just like billions of pieces of the moon like hitting the Earth. And most of them are burning up in the atmosphere as like meteors. And then towards the end, it's just like batshit crazy with the amount of like rocks that are hitting. Like a rock less than like a mile wide would just devastate the Earth for 10 generations. Like it would wipe out all life on the planet Earth if an asteroid the size of New York City hit the Earth. I suppose you can argue that the rocks coming from the moon aren't hitting the Earth as hard, so they might not kick up as much dust in the atmosphere. There's all sorts of scientific...
Or the fucked up gravitational pull is making them hit slower and lighter than they would?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe asteroids have a higher rate of speed. I mean, the science in this, it's safe to say, is probably not completely accurate. Especially the part where they launched the space shuttle with 3 working engines, and Halle Berry just launches it herself by hitting a start button.
Oh, yeah.
After telling everyone to evacuate.
Everybody go home. We're just fucked. We've completely given up.
We gotta go. We gotta launch this puppy. I'm just gonna hit this button. There's not like a team of 3,000 people that are involved in launching a space shuttle and all its complex components.
Well, this is an old space shuttle. It's a simpler technology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, crackpot guy, there's a crackpot theory guy.
The usual Roland Emmerich character.
Who isn't quite as obnoxious and annoying as previous Roland Emmerich characters.
Well, that's something I wanted to point out. He always has the dumb comic relief side characters, and that's essentially the function the Game of Thrones guy plays. But yeah, they tone down the comedy so much that it throws everything off balance, ironically enough, where the movie feels way more dour than his movies usually do. Like it's not, I mean, I don't think any of his movies are fun, but the fun that people have with like Independence Day or something is completely missing from this.
All right, you alien assholes! Up yours!
Well, because Halle Berry and Patrick Wilson aren't likable.
Yeah.
They're just sort of like blah kind of characters.
They're not a Will Smith.
They're professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not a Will Smith.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Or Harvey Firestein.
Oh, yes.
Or any, like, they don't have a lot of personality. I guess the personality was supposed to be put into the not Simon Pegg character.
Fuzz Aldrin, how many times have I told you to use the litter box?
I guess. It's like, he has a cat, and they do make a joke at one point. They're about to launch into space. The only people left at NASA is Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, and him. So he has to go on the spaceship with them. And they make jokes about him having IBS.
I've got IBS. Irritable bowel syndrome.
And really, you know, a lot of people suffer from IBS. Maybe Jada Pinkett has IBS. I don't know if, you know, we have to protect her at all costs. We should not be making jokes
not
about
funny.
such a debilitating problem that many people face.
He says he has anxiety too.
Yeah, anxiety's not a joke.
It's not.
He's constantly popping pills. You know what? That's not funny.
No.
Don't be making jokes about these things,
It's
Roland
not
Emmerich.
funny. It's not funny.
I think that's why this movie flopped.
But getting back to the plot.
Mike, it's not funny.
I know it's not funny. I wasn't laughing.
We can't get past this part. We got to get this trending on Twitter. Hashtag cancel Moonfall. Although I guess that happened when it was released in theaters.
Moonfail?
Moon Crash.
Moon
Can we
Crash?
talk about Moon Crash? We'll get to Moon Crash.
Well, we'll talk about the copycat Moon Crash and a different film in a minute. But there's not just the moon people thinking the moon landings are fake, conspiracy crackpots, right? There's goofballs that think of the moon as a megastructure.
It's doing something to the megastructure's power core.
Excuse me, the megastructure?
Please don't ask.
When they see a blurry NASA image from 150 million light years away and it's a blurry thing, they think it's a megastructure, which is some kind of alien-built gigantic thing. And like there's that asteroid that happened to look like a long spaceship. Mm-hmm. People were thinking it was a spaceship. And I'm like, that's just a weird-shaped asteroid. Let's go with Occam's razor here. But
it's like when people look at a photo and they see an orb and they're like, that's a ghost. And I'm like, that's not a ghost, idiot. Ghosts aren't real.
That's a piece of dust that when you take a picture and you flash, the dust that's near the lens blurs out because it's not in focus.
Because it's right near the lens.
Yeah. Anyways, so there's a concept in science fiction called a Dyson sphere.
Which I had heard before, and I'm assuming I've heard it from you in relation to Star Trek.
Correct. I would be crucified on the internet if I did not mention the Dyson sphere episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which had Scotty in it.
Oh, Scotty, James Doohan.
James Doohan. This was before he died.
Oh, okay.
Not after.
Okay.
I should have known.
It's a fictional idea where you could build a sphere around a star, and then inside of the sphere, absorb all the star's energy for yourself. Lock it in.
Aye, an actual Dyson sphere. Can you imagine the engineering skills needed to even design such a structure?
Yeah, I know, it's pretty amazing.
To either have living space on the inside, use it for power, whatever. In Star Trek: The Next Generation, there's a sun, like a yellow, middle-aged kind of sun, like our sun, which is obviously fucking gigantic. Now imagine building a sphere around that.
Sure.
With enough space to be far away from the sun. I mean, you're talking 175 quadrillion times the size of the Death Star. I mean, we're talking the big, which is why it's fictional.
So like the Death Star from The Force Awakens. It's bigger.
This is Starkiller Base.
So it's big. Maybe 175 quadrillion times bigger than that Death Star.
Okay.
We're talking,
so bigger than the moon would be is what you're saying.
Jay, do you know how big our sun is, right?
So bigger than the moon.
Bigger than the moon. But here's the caveat.
Yes.
Inside our moon's Dyson sphere, which is obviously a very tiny Dyson sphere, is a white dwarf star. There's regular stars, like our sun or stars that are bigger. Stars end their lives in a couple of different ways, right? They turn into red giants.
In about 5 to 6 billion years, the sun will eat all of the inner planets of our solar system and will reach the Earth's orbit, thus entering the red giant phase. The red giant phase of a star will only last a few 100 million years before it runs out of fuel completely and becomes a white dwarf.
A star gets smaller and smaller and turns into something called a white dwarf, which is compressed. Now, science has discovered the smallest white dwarf that exists, which contains about the mass of our sun, but is about the size of the moon.
Okay.
Which compared to the mass of our sun is fucking tiny. Mm-hmm. That's like taking, let's say, a city bus.
Okay.
And shrinking it to the size of the head of a pin. Okay? I might not be right with that, I'm just guessing. So the smallest white dwarf they found was about the size of the moon.
Okay.
The movie has a little bit of leeway. They're saying there's an even smaller white dwarf inside this.
Yeah.
This must be the hull of the megastructure. The moon's mantle's just a protective shell.
And that's what they built their Dyson sphere around. And on the outside of that Dyson sphere is the moon's surface, all the dirt and, you know, craters and all that. So it's hidden inside there.
Yeah.
And we discover at the end of the film that the plot was humans somewhere else in the galaxy. They had AI. Their AI just suddenly decided to come alive.
The AI suddenly became self-aware.
Remember, it's in that little girl's bedroom. And
I thought I was missing something.
bitch.
I watched that twice, and I rewound it. I was like, "What am I missing? Why does it just start attacking?" But it just does.
It just
I guess
comes
because it's
alive.
AI.
It becomes self-aware.
The AI suddenly became self-aware.
And when something becomes self-aware, it just immediately wants to murder everything.
Well, their AI that they had on their alien planet was, you know, the equivalent of Rosie the Robot in the Jetsons.
Sure.
If Rosie tucks me in and tells me about the cow that degravitated over the moon.
Miss, I gotta hear too.
In the form of, I guess I should say a more modern, a Google Alexa. I'll say a more modern version of that.
Okay.
In the form of nanobots that float around and form shapes.
Yeah.
And she had hers inside a little pyramid, which I assume was like an Alexa. Nanobots. You know, put on the Jersey Shore. Yes, sir. Yes, I will put on the Jersey Shore. Bleep. And then they got mad and they broke out of their little thing, and then they met with other blobs of nanobots that are flying around, and that became a big swarm.
And transformed into countless swarms of nanotechnology.
Killed everyone on the planet, destroyed all their stuff, and then left to go conquer the universe.
To go destroy other planets.
Then it made it to Earth. It burrowed its way inside our moon. And Halle Berry says some line where she says, it's like killing two birds with one stone, because not Simon Pegg asks her, why didn't it just come down and kill all the people? And they're like, well, if it fucking drops the moon on the Earth, it would do two things. It would kill two birds with one stone. That was the plot.
Yes. But the nanobot monster thing is only attracted to, it can only sense
technology.
Technology plus organic. If there's just technology, it doesn't detect it. But if there's technology with like a person there, that's what it detects.
It's like the end of the Matrix. Remember the end of the Matrix? Where they had to walk around in the robot suits and shoot at the things?
Yeah, yeah.
And
so the nanobots would detect that.
And the only way they could stop those is with the EMP. Same thing.
That's the same thing, yeah, that's right.
They recently used it in Star Trek Picard.
Oh.
To turn off the engine of the Homeland Security bus. And then Raffi kicks the door open to the bus and uses the EMP on the driver, and it knocks it out. Now here people are typing already.
Yeah.
But human beings do run on electrical component. They have an electrical component within our bodies.
Okay.
So perhaps an EMP would knock a person out. Although from what everything I've heard, the theories of an EMP attack on the United States, they never mentioned anything about it knocking everybody out. They just knock out all of our power grids and internet and satellites and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I don't have the answer to that. Some typer who's typing comments right now might know whether or not an EMP would knock a person out. I don't know if it would kill them.
EMP interference is generally disruptive or damaging to electrical equipment, and at higher energy levels, a powerful EMP event such as a lightning strike can damage physical objects such as buildings and aircraft structures.
The main impact is electrical, energy that doesn't kill people but spreads like lightning, striking any electrical grid or circuitry.
They have the EMP, oh God. They take the space shuttle up, and then they have a little space shuttle rover with a little engine attached to it. That probably has enough like fuel to like get them down to the moon for like 4 minutes. But in this, it's flying around like a Star Trek space shuttle. It's like Star Wars.
Ludicrous mode.
This doesn't make any sense. They have the EMP bomb on their ship, and then the robot attacks them, and they're like, oh God, it's noticing the electronics, so he smashes the controller. That still works later.
Yeah.
Because it has to?
Because it has to.
But then they get sucked inside the Dyson sphere, and then the alien fucking life form that lives inside the Dyson sphere decides to help them out. There's some kind of consciousness.
It can project images from your subconscious, which is why all the exposition is dumped by Patrick Wilson's son when he was still a little kid.
I'm a construct from your mind. Billions of years ago, your ancestors were once a thriving civilization in a distant part of the galaxy. Billions of years ago, had created your ancestors were once a thriving civilization in a distant part of the galaxy. You call it AI, artificial intelligence.
And it's just like blanket exposition.
It's a story about fathers and sons.
Yeah.
It becomes Contact at the end.
Well, that's Roland Emmerich's whole thing, isn't it? He always takes these ideas from other better movies and just dumbs them down to make theoretically a crowd pleaser. You're supposed to be cheering during that amazing Aspen car chase scene.
Oh my God.
Which had some of the worst fucking effects that I've ever seen in a big movie like this.
Well, first we see Patrick Wilson arrive at the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles. And
well, he arrives at a green screen.
He's green screened.
Yeah, it looks like the room.
Yeah, it's lucky for me.
I mean, I think they filmed inside there because it looks similar.
Unless they built a set that looked just like it, but it looked like the real place.
It looked like the real place. But yeah, they couldn't get him riding up on a motorcycle.
Or maybe they figured, we only need this for one shot. We'll just do it on a green screen. We don't need to get Patrick Wilson there that day. Who knows?
Save some of that $140 million.
China backed out $75 from the budget they gave us, so we just got to cut a corner here.
But, oh God, those redneck, the one guy looks like a hillbilly and a half.
Straight out of like a 70s grindhouse movie or something.
He looks like the neighbor in The Burbs.
Hey, Pinocchio! Where are you going?
But they're like, where are we going on? I guess they were all like, this all flew over my head, but they were all trying to get oxygen tanks.
I didn't understand why they were chasing him at first.
Yeah.
I thought they were just mad because they have kind of a confrontation where they're trying to steal their shit, and then they take off. And then they start chasing him. I was like, the Earth is about to be destroyed, who cares? But then I guess they were, trying to get their oxygen.
They make a reference to the rednecks rob a gas station. He's like, look at all this money I got. And he's like, we could use it as toilet paper. It's worthless.
Yeah.
And the real thing we need now are oxygen tanks, because when the moon comes super close, and the moon was like scraping up against the Earth.
Yes.
And so that sucked all the air up temporarily.
It only affects the gravitational pull in a very small region, though, even though it's that close to the Earth.
So the moon,
to the point where you can run from the gravitational pull.
The moon is the orbit of the Earth is just cluttered with billions of chunks of the moon, like planet killer asteroids, and it's scraping up against the Earth. And then there's things like, they're in Colorado, right? Because that's the highest elevation in the US.
Yeah.
And so they're like walking outside and they're like, and then like this giant meteorite hits a mountain.
How did you get out?
Dad got me out.
And it explodes, and then they go, And I'm like, you ever hear fucking avalanches and shit? And one hit like that would just cover you with zero visibility dust for like 7 years, okay? Whatever.
Well, every time they cut to the moon, like looming over the horizon, it happens multiple times, and people are like, look out, it's the moon.
Silly.
Like it's Jason Voorhees or something.
Yeah. I mean, it would be pretty scary if the moon got that close.
It would be, sure.
I think if the moon moved like 1 degree of rotation, the whole Earth would just die. They say they're like climate change. If the Earth changes temperature degrees by like 2 degrees in the next 20 years, like we're all fucked.
Yeah.
Like the whole ecosystem of the Earth, like it's so delicate, and then you just have this insane shit going on where the moon's scraping the Earth's atmosphere, and then they're just like running. And oh God, the Sunny and the Chinese actress. When they're running, remember? And then there's the bridge. And then like there's like a truck flying at them.
Oh yeah.
And then a train is flying at them, and they're just like
running on their little green screen.
Yeah, and then they jump because the bridge collapses. They jump, and then like the wind pushes them into the safety of the cave.
There's multiple scenarios in this movie where they say the gravity is helping us. I think that's the line. I wrote it down.
And Roland Emmerich put a couple lines up while making this movie.
Oh shit, the moon is rising. Gravity's going to go crazy.
Oh shit, the moon is rising.
Gravity's gonna go crazy.
Yeah, I just want to return to that amazing car shootout.
Yeah. Michael Pena, is that his name?
Michael Pena.
He's sticking out the side window and he's shooting at him, and it's just all green screen and it looks awful.
It looks
it's
really
like we were talking about with that Bruce Willis movie where they just add all the plug-in effects in front. There's the snow and shit. Like they're trying to conceal how bad it looks by just throwing every element in front of the frame.
Right. The kind of sunset and the moon in the background, and there's just so many layers of things going on to where it shattered that illusion of reality. This felt like a big TV show. You ever see commercials for that show called 911? Like,
oh yeah,
where it's like the most ridiculous like circumstances arise.
Yeah.
It's just like we're dealing with the most crazy shit that could possibly happen, and some of those like effects, they look kind of similar in quality of a Roland Emmerich film. So that's why this is a ship that sailed.
Cheap, shitty TV shows can have the same level of effects. Well, speaking of, we mentioned Moon Crash earlier, which is the mockbuster version of this. There's a couple, I watched some of it. There's a couple of effect shots, and this is an Asylum movie, that looked really good. As good as Moonfall. A lot of the other ones are awful, but there was a couple of shots that didn't look bad.
They probably put a ton of money towards a couple of shots that put them in the trailer.
Yeah.
Well, you'll show those shots, of course.
Of course.
And
I'll also show the shitty shots, because there's plenty of those too.
We have to get out of here.
No.
Come on, right now.
No, get inside.
Why not?
That's why.
I don't know if I think the premise of that one was like some mining accident shot rocks down from the moon.
Yeah, I watched...
which is a more favorable plot to me.
Keep it simple, like the whole nanobots and the ancient civilization living inside the moon, like they had all this crap. But yeah, I watched the first 10 minutes of Moonfall, and then, because it's an Asylum movie, I knew that the middle chunk of the movie was just going to be like 3 or 4 little sets where characters just talk endlessly. So I scrubbed to the end to see any sort of exciting action climax, special effects, and there really wasn't much. They're trying to change, there's like a whole row of solar panels outside. They're like, we have to change the direction of the solar panels, and that'll somehow deflect the moon. I don't know what's happening.
If we turn the solar panel array all in the same direction.
But the control panel to turn all the solar panels, they didn't even alter it all. They just used a control box for like a LED light. Literally this same one that we have. It's for this isn't promo, but it's for the Aperture 300C light. She just grabs it and she starts turning the dials on it. They put gaff tape over the logo and that was it. There's like a calculator sitting on a piece of plywood, and that's a piece of technology. It's so cheap. It's actually shocking because the Asylum movies, I didn't even know they were still making them. But they're still doing those mockbusters, and it looks even worse than some of the older ones that I've seen. It was truly amazing. But the interesting thing, out of the dialogue and the setup of what's happening in the movie, not dissimilar at all to the dialogue in Moonfall. Not Moonfall has just as bad of dialogue as an Asylum knockoff.
I don't know how we're going to stop this thing, but we got to do everything that we can to get off this rock and help them save Earth, or there isn't going to be a home to get back to.
The largest Neo was already set to annihilate the entire planet. A nuclear fallout of this magnitude, what small chance we had of saving this Earth will be non-existent.
I was talking to our Canadian friend Colin. He sent me a text and he said, I'm watching Moonfall and it's fucking hilarious. I'm laughing at everything in it. And so I looked up the trailer for it, but I accidentally watched the trailer for Moonshot with Cole Sprouse.
How long have you guys been together?
8 years.
8 years? How did you manage that?
He checks all the boxes.
Oh, you mean literally?
I was like, it looks pretty bad. It looks like a fake movie. But I'm like, I'm like, Colin, why are you watching this? This looks like it's like a YA novel adaptation. It looks like it's made for like preteen girls. Like, why are you watching this? And he's like, it's Roland Emmerich's new movie. I'm like, ooh, it's taking quite a turn. Roland Emmerich's directing this. And then I put the pieces together.
What are you doing here? Who sneaks onto spaceships?
I can explain.
So currently in release is Moonshot, Moonfall, and Mooncrash.
Yes. Which one made the most money at the box office? Moonfall or the two that weren't even released in theaters? They probably still did better.
They probably still did better.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, everyone, this is Steve Sawyer. His team of international astronauts, including his brother Logan, are stranded in a ship on the moon.
We saved the Earth.
We should get started.
Get started with what?
The very last line is, "You're part of the moon now."
Oh, that's the other thing. There's a sequel bait,
sequel
or
bait.
maybe cinematic universe bait. He already tried that with the end of Independence Day 2.
Take the fight to them. When do we leave? We are gonna kick some serious alien ass.
I don't remember much of that movie, but I remember it ends with sequel bait. I'm like, we're gonna keep doing this. Nope. But he thought Moonfall, that would be the one.
It could have been some kind of like, because I mean, you look at the Earth and it's like fucked.
You save the world.
There's no way like the global economy is going to recover from. It's going to just be like a nightmare world for the next 200 years of people scavenging for food and killing each other. It's post-apocalyptic. But I think it was either sequel bait or a tease that not Simon Pegg man is going to be the AI that controls the moon, and the moon already demonstrated that it has the technology to repair stuff because it like used its lasers to like fix their broken shuttle. So I think his job as the moon overseer is to shoot lasers down and fix all the cities. So I think there's like a little twinkle of hope at the end that the Earth could be fixed.
Okay.
Like I said in my intro, the days of we're all going to the movies to watch this new release are long dead, and that's why this Moonfall movie feels like a walking corpse.
Yeah.
Like it keeps trying to like climb up out of its grave and keep kicking it down.
Well, that's why it's interesting that now it's all about, like with the comic book movies, it's all about the multiverse stuff, because that's a way to drag back things you remember. Like they're bringing back Michael Keaton Batman, they brought back Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, all these things. It's like the last gasp. And it's not that theaters are dying, because like, Spider-Man was like the third highest grossing movie of all time, which is crazy. But if that was just another Spider-Man sequel and it didn't have that angle of bringing back things you remember from 20 years ago, would it have been as big of a hit? I don't know.
Kind of like the new announcement about season 3 of Star Trek Picard.
They haven't even finished season 2. Look what we got! Keep paying attention!
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Well, they're bringing back everybody from TNG, yeah, except for Will Wheaton.
Our first 2 seasons with wacky oddball characters, it's not working out.
Bring them back, bring everybody back.
I just saw that and I just said to myself, sad.
Well, this Moonfall kind of feels like a genre version of that. We're bringing back disaster porn. It's back, everybody.
You're shooting at us! Shoot back!
Well, you would think that an idea like this, that he couldn't get any sort of funding from a studio to make, to the point where he had to independently finance it, I guess in a way that's kind of admirable, because it's like maybe he really just wants to make these type of movies. He's not completely cynical, but yeah, it's like no one wants this shit anymore, clearly.
It's stuff he wants to make. He really enjoys disaster porn. He loves watching cities get crumbled. That's his thing.
But this is like a more generic version of that. Like in the older movies, it's like, oh, you see the White House get blown up, or you see, New York City get destroyed. Here's just like, here's a flood of a city. Yeah. There's not like no big landmarks that get destroyed.
The landmark thing is out of this, and there's no message about current day politics, like climate change or anything like that. It's just a sci-fi story of aliens in the moon, and so it's a little different in that. There's no angle. There's no like big shocking moments of watching the Statue of Liberty fall over and all this kind of stuff.
That type of spectacle in like the days of Independence Day, it's like, wow, look at these amazing special effects. Now we're at a point, like we said, TV shows have this same level of special effects. Nobody cares.
We are in a fluctuation period where things are going to sink or swim. And Moonfall has sunk.
Just like Will Smith and Ezra Miller's careers.
Yeah. When they talked about a Dyson sphere, I said, Star Trek. There's even a shot in Star Trek The Next Generation where the Enterprise flies through a doorway that's closing, which happens in this movie.
Oh. That's a pretty standard action cliche, though.
And I said, a Dyson sphere has a star in the middle of it. The moon is way too small to have a star in it. And then they mentioned that it's probably a white dwarf. And I said, oh, a white dwarf at the center of this little Dyson sphere inside the moon, that's pretty great. I'm really excited to see Kenny Baker again on the big screen. Then I realized he had passed.
Yeah.
Hey, the Game of Thrones guy is in it. I figure maybe then it could be Peter Dinklage.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh my God, Will Smith's coming to slap me! Jada Pinkett's fucking Peter Dinklage too! I've gone too far in a few places, Jay.
Possibly.
But that's what people come to see on Half in the Bag.
Oh.
And they come to see me trying to mine for cryptocurrency.
Oh, God.
I did it! I did it!
That's okay. I can control our computer with this.
Okay.
Beep, boop, boop. Beep.
1/14 of a cent. I'm rich!